All right, it is 5:05 and you are now live.
All right. Well, welcome all who are here and are watching online. And call this meeting to order. And I just want to hear this. I am here, Luke is here. Dave Risberger who is going to be late. And Katie is here. So welcome all. And first order of business is approval of the minutes. Any thoughts come up? Okay. All right, I think we've good to move on to a public comment. And we have any public comment? And you hear, everybody here is in a more or less an official capacity. And so the only topic, is the residency requirements for boards and commissions. And to the best of my knowledge, David was going to be working on, Dave Risberger had provided a draft that was going to be going over to Dave Burzig. And we don't have anything yet, is that correct? Or
We had language that had been proposed by David Risberger, which had been circulated.
yes,
And I'm basically okay with it, as long as we had final approval from the board, or from the, yes, whatever you are, then I would be happy to draft the legislation.
okay,
But I just wanted final approval, and Greg wanted me to be here today to see if there were any final questions. And basically, what David had put together was, and this was just a continuation of what had been discussed earlier, which is if they're purely advisory, then they can be appointed if they're not city. If they have any legislative authority, binding authority, then they had to be city residents regardless.
okay. And yes,
So I think I had the legislation here, David, and I was just curious. So for example, for C14B,
Right.
officers and board commission.
Yep.
If there is someone, let's say on a commission right now of these that is from out of the city, are they grandfathered in?
The usual mechanism for these things is that we don't make anything retroactive.
Okay,
Simply because they were appointed, they filled, if they were okay, they were okay.
okay,
So this would be prospective.
gotcha. Cool. Quick, easy.
does that resonate with everyone? Luke,
I can't speak for everyone, but it answers my question.
okay,
Yeah.
Dave?
I don't even know where we are in the conversation.
Do you approve of what you proposed?
Yeah, I do.
Then we're good. This is the boards and commissions
Okay.
thing, that's all. And the only question that was had was whether or not it'd be retroactive. I said generally, when we pass legislation, it's prospective.
Yeah.
So if you were on the board now, you continue on the board for your term, but couldn't be renewed if you didn't fit in one of the appropriate categories.
Right.
No. Katie, do you have any thoughts or any?
I don't, I had to reread it twice just to make sure that I understood that the language was conveying what we were saying generally, but I think it looks good.
You'll get to reread it at least once more, probably twice, because it's a charter change. So
Okay.
So with that, we would.
there being no further business, the meeting was adjourned. Is that possible?
It's quite possible.
Yes.
I was just gonna ask about timeline going forward. Anything we should have the next week's council agenda?
No, because we don't have well, we could. I mean, I could do that and put it on next week's agenda. Classically, what happens when we get the final approval as the form, we then draft it and run it by you, but I can run it by the board. I mean, there's nothing, it has to lay on the desks in its final form, so I can certainly draft it based on today's conversation, give it to Carrie, who can, it probably, I don't think we could have it,
Ready for a vote?
yeah, the timeline wouldn't work as far as laying it on the desk, but we could certainly have it laid on the desk next council.
Yeah, I gather, correct me if I'm wrong, he doesn't need to come back to legislative again. I think he's been here enough.
Yeah, again, and they'll see it when it goes out, and if anybody has, that's why you lay it on the desk. In case I make some, you know,
I don't think there's any pressing timeline for this, so we're not in a rush to get this passed, so.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'll get it out, and we'll put it on we'll get it in the hopper, and it'll grind its way through the system.
Okay.
Let the grinding begin.
Okay.
So, public comment, I think that's it. Unless there's anything else people would like to discuss regarding legislation.
John in charge of running council meetings.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because, I know all commissions, boards, committees are at the formation of the pleasure of the mayor. It's just in the unlikely event that we are not formed next term. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all. I think we probably will be. A pleasure.
Yeah, likewise, this has been, very educational experience for me being on this committee, so.
I think this committee is a good one for any new council member to be on, because it's shows exactly what's gotta be done for any new legislation, so.
And how you have to be careful when you're running it, because you gotta be careful not only what you include, but what you exclude.
Yes.
Because if you're not careful, the more you put in, the more wiggle room you give to somebody to squirt around it, so.
Agreed. So, with no other discussion,
The meeting was adjourned. God, I love this.
we agree, and adjourn the meeting.
It's the best Christmas present